Hello and welcome to today's video. Today I'm reviewing this pen. This is a new pen that has just been launched on Kickstarter. It is the Hoverpen 3.0 Future Edition by Novium. They were kind enough to send out one of the prototype versions for me to review here for you. So I'm going to talk about the parts and features of this pen. There's obviously, as you can see, a very cool novelty factor that is going on here. This is the Hoverpen, and it's in a magnetically charged stand that balances on this tip. Like, it's very hard to describe in the video, but there's like this little force field thing that you can feel, like magnetic field, that pulls the pen into the stand, and it sits in there at it's at a 60-degree angle. I'll show a photo of the angle it sits on. But one thing I really like about this as the novelty factor is it's designed to sit on your desk. It's a conversation piece, but it is very, very cool. It's got a very nice sort of spacey element to it. A lot of what I want to focus on today is on the pen itself. Obviously, a big part of this pen is the base and the stand and how it sits and the unique cool factor of it. But for me, all of this is kind of useless if the pen doesn't write. And I'm really pleased to say that this pen has a lot going for it. Even out of the stand, as a pen just on its own, this pen has a lot going for it. So let's talk a little bit about the pen. So, firstly, it is, as I said, it's made by Novium, and it's called the Hoverpen 3.0. There have been other Hoverpens in the past. One here, I think, is the Hoverpen 2, is a ballpoint pen that sits in a stand. They've redesigned a lot of the elements of this pen, and the stand is one of them. And I think the new stand is brilliant, and the angle is really great. So, it's made from, as they say, aircraft grade materials. It's a anodized sort of aluminium. It snaps to cap, and very securely. It's got a little band on it there. The top of the pen, or the cap, has a nice sort of cone on it, which goes out, and then the pen is fairly straight all the way down the barrel, as you get the cap band there. And then on the other end is a little like separate section with this cut at an angle, and then the same sort of cone end, but in the metal. And this is where the magnetic sort of aspect of it all is, and a lot of the weight of that is down in this end. As I said, it snaps to cap. The pen doesn't post. It just doesn't post. It's not designed to, and it's got enough length in it that it doesn't really need to post. It's got a long section. It's a thinnish section, probably a little slim for some people. We'll step out, and then a number, which I think is a number 4 Schmidt nib, and this is the fine. And Schmidt has had a lot to do with this pen, including the fact that it has a K5 Schmidt K5 converter included. So it is standard international cartridge converter, and yes, it comes with a Schmidt converter. This back section of the pen is weighty. Like the top half of the pen here with the grip section, the converter, the nib, the feed, all of that, it's very, very light. The weight is in the end here, and it needs that for the balance, and it needs that for the stability in the stand as well. And so it sits in the stand nib up, which, like, if you use a pen holder, the chances are you still your pen, nib up. And so the stand here, as I said, at a 60-degree angle, sits with the nib up, which is, I think, which is good. Obviously, if I just pull up the other one alongside this again, it's a very different angle, and they're very, very different pens. But the number 2 there has the ballpoint down, so there's a bit more of an immediacy to that. But that's not something that is practical with a fountain pen in this system. Now, one thing you would have seen sort of just then, and as I've tried to put this in, is that it does grip to the edge of the stand quite strongly. It's a lot of strong magnets in there. So when you're placing it in the stand, when you're taking it out of the stand, it is best to hold it as close, I've found, as close to the end as is comfortable, and that way you avoid a lot of that extra grip around, around the stand. It sits in there very comfortably, very securely. I like it a lot. As I said, it's a really interesting conversation piece. So doing a quick size comparison now, I've just pulled up the Lamy Safari. This is the rollable version, but it's the same size as the fountain pen. You can see it's a little longer than the Safari, which I think is a good thing because because it doesn't post, I think you need just that little bit of extra length in the pen. Then unposted here with the rollable, you can see it's a good length. It sits nice and comfortably at a pretty, I think it's actually a pretty good size pen, particularly, for comfort in the hand. It's not too big, it's not too small. So the only thing for me is that the grip section is just a little bit thin perhaps. So what are the dimensions? Well, it is 146 millimeters when it is capped. So it's a good size. And this would primarily be used, I suppose, as a desk pen, but there is no reason why you couldn't use this as an everyday, you could carry it, you could use it, because it is a fully functioning pen in its own right. At 146 millimeters, it's a good size. Uncapped, it's 135. So it is a nice length in the hand. You can see it sits nice back on the webbing of the hand there. Lots of length out the front. A smaller nib, but I think you could hold it quite far back on this section. That step down off the barrel is not too sharp and it's not too pronounced either. The whole pen weighs 32 grams. Now, 4 grams is in the cap. This aluminium is a lightweight material in its own right. 28 of that is the body of the pen. So when you're writing with a 28 gram pen, but the weight is all back here. And that's okay because it sits nicely on the webbing of the hand. It's not like it's in the cap, which is sort of jutting out, beyond your hand or anything like that. It's sort of sitting there nicely. The balance to me, it's as it has to be, I think, given the nature of the pen and the fact that it sits in that stand and it needs this magnetic material in the end. So as I said earlier, there's a novelty element with this pen, which is great. But even with that, you want to be able, when you pick that pen up out of that stand, you want it to write. And I'm really impressed with this pen. So this is the, I'll say it's Novium. And it's the Hoverpen 3.0, currently on Kickstarter. This is a fine steel nib. As I said, it's from Schmidt. And I'm getting more and more impressed with Schmidt nibs the more I use them recently. There's a lot going for them. The ink I have in this is a Waterman ink. It's the Mysterious Blue. Which is their blue-black. I decided to keep a Waterman ink in this simply because we know how they perform. And when this is a pen that is a novelty, I wanted to actually really show that this pen actually writes really, really well. So an ink that we're familiar with hopefully helps give that away. Let's do some writing. So, you hear a little bit of feedback. The camera will pick it up more than you feel it when you're writing. There is a tiny bit of feedback, but it is still smooth. It's definitely not a sharp, scratchy nib. There's just a tiny bit of feedback. This is Clairefontaine 90 gram paper, so it's quite smooth. But yeah, there is a bit of feedback there. Reverse writing, it's quite sharp. I probably wouldn't do it that's a little scratchy, but you can if you need to. It is a stiff nib. Do not flex this. It's not going to flex out. You're just putting more ink down on the page, and I'd be very afraid of really springing a nib like this. Fast writing. Totally illegible, not designed to be, just quick writing. It keeps up. I've not had any issues with this pen in terms of ink starvation or hard starts. It's written first time every time. The seal on the cap seems to be pretty good. It caps quite deeply, and so the chamber for the nib is relatively small, and so there's not a lot of air to dry it out. As I said, no hard starts, no ink starvation. It writes smooth. It writes relatively wet. You can see it glisten on the page there, and there's nothing to complain about in terms of wetness for this pen at all. In fact, actually, I did a right-handed writing experiment with it the other day, and I found it to be it's actually very, very pleasant. For a steel nib from Schmidt, I think this is a really nice pen to write with. The only issue that I think anyone is going to have is the width of that section. So let's talk pros and cons now for the Hoverpen 3.0. Now, as I've said, it is a slim section, and that's okay. A lot of people like slim pens. If this is what you like, it's fine. But I think that because there's a bit of weight in the pen, you still feel like the pen is in your hand. The other issue for some people may be the balance. If you have small hands, this is going to be back weighted. This is the way it has to be. It needs that magnetic stuff going on, and it needs it for the stability in the stand. The price of this pen, okay. At the moment on Kickstarter, and it will cost a different amount once it's off the Kickstarter, but right now it is live on the Kickstarter. At the moment, it's retailing, the early bird prices are between $119 and $129 US. So for a steel nib cartridge converter, $120-$129, unique factor about it. It's an interesting price point. The pros for this pen, the surprising nib. I actually really, really enjoy writing with this nib. It's wet enough, but it still keeps a nice fine line. It's smooth, it's reliable, it's super reliable, and I actually think it writes very, very well. I also like the fact that this is available as a rollerball, and which opens up this pen and its design features to a wider pen audience. The other thing about this pen that we all love is the fact that the novelty factor of the hover pen. So there's a tradition of desk pens where you put, the pen in the little stand and it sits there and you take it out and you write. This kind of idea carries on from that. The stand works as a way of storing the pen on your desk, of displaying it. It's a conversation piece if you have this in your office. It's really unique. It'd make a great gift to someone who is interested in fountain pens and interested in, space or design and all these kinds of things. It's an interesting concept. It's not, the Novium have done a lot in designing this, but there are other pens, of course, that feature these kinds of designs, but they've done a really nice thing with it, and I think they've put it at a really reasonable price point for what you're getting. This is incredibly stable. The cool factor is amazing. The spinning of that is just, it sits there and it bobbles around. It's very, very cool. But all of that means nothing, as I said. The pen writes really, really well. I'm super impressed by it. I'm super impressed by the way it feels in the hand, given the fact that it's got a slim section and a bit of weight. It still feels very comfortable. And so, Novium doing interesting things with the Hoverpen 3.0 Future Edition now on Kickstarter. So head over to their Kickstarter. As I said, I'll link to it down below. Check it out. Pledge, get behind it, and just have a really cool. Oh, there we go. There's that thing. Hold it close to the end. Just have a really cool, fun pen that is a little bit different. So thank you for watching. I hope you found this video about the Hoverpen 3.0 to be interesting and useful. If you did, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Hit the notifications button if you want to stay up to date with the videos that I produce. Please feel free to get in touch using any of the platforms listed below. You can contact me on Instagram or Twitter at @the_offstage_me, or you can contact me on any of my videos here, or drop me an email, which is listed down below. If you've got products you think I should be looking at, please get in touch. I would love to hear from you. A massive thank you to Novium and for the Hoverpen 3.0 for providing one to me for this review. I hope you found it interesting and useful. So a big thank you to them, and thank you to you, my viewers, for your support on this channel. So until next time, enjoy your pens, enjoy writing, and I'll talk to you soon.